People move away from me before I even say a word. On the train that morning, the woman beside me covered her nose and changed seats. The man across from me kept staring like he was trying to figure out what died. I looked down at my clothes, freshly washed, clean, but by the next station, half the seats around me were empty. And nobody would tell me why. The strange part? I couldn't smell anything at all. I've tried before, wrist to my nose, face buried in my shirt collar. Nothing, just soap. Sometimes the sharp smell of whatever suppressant I was using that week. But people's reactions always told a different story. I learned that when I was 8 years old, my teacher called my mother in after class and spoke so quietly I almost couldn't hear her. There's something wrong with his scent. The other children were uncomfortable around me. That sentence followed me for 13 years. After a while, it stopped sounding shocking and started feeling normal. Like something heavy you carry for so long that you forget what it feels like without it. My name is Eden, I'm 21. I've lost 4 jobs in 2 years. Not because I'm bad at working. I show up early, I stay up late. I eat lunch outside even in the rain so nobody has to sit near me, it never mattered. Last month, I worked in data entry at a small office with only 12 people. I wore 2 suppressant patches and changed them every 4 hours. After 3 weeks, my supervisor called me into his office. He stared at his desk the whole time. The team raised some concerns. We think remote work may be a better fit. There was no remote option, there never had been. That was just the polite version. I thanked him anyway. Then I apologized. I always apologized. I called my mother that night and told her everything was fine. She made a quiet sound like she didn't believe me but wasn't going to push. Then she asked if I was coming over on Sunday. She said she'd made jollof rice. I told her yes. She's the only person who never flinches when I walk into a room. She's used to me, and she's never once said my name like I was a burden. But sometimes late at night I think about all the times she told me it'll get better, baby. And I wonder if she stopped believing it before I did. The night I lost the job, I stood in the shower for almost 40 minutes. I scrubbed at my skin too hard without meaning to. My wrists were red when I finally stopped. The water turned cold. I sat down anyway. Why am I like this? It wasn't really a question anymore. Just something I said when nobody else was around to hear it. Eventually I got out, dried myself off, and made a list of places to apply to the next day. 3 weeks later, I was standing outside a hotel I had no business walking into. Glass walls, marble floors, a doorman in a charcoal uniform, decorative trees that probably cost more than my rent. I stood outside for 4 minutes pretending to check my phone. All I could think was, lobby means people, people notice, people leave. Eventually I forced myself inside. Cool air, marble floors, the place looked quiet and expensive. I gave my name at the front desk and asked for HR. The receptionist smiled politely. Professional, distant. Please have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. I sat near the window. Across the lobby, a man in a dark suit was speaking to the concierge. I wasn't really paying attention to him at first. I was watching the HR office door. Still, something about him stood out. Calm, unhurried. Then he turned toward me. I felt it immediately. That familiar moment when someone notices me. I waited for it. The look, the discomfort, the decision to move away. Instead, he walked over and sat 2 chairs away from me. Not far, close enough that I noticed. He opened a newspaper and started reading. A minute passed. I kept waiting for him to move. He didn't. I noticed how tightly I was holding my folder. Then he spoke without looking up. You keep apologizing. I froze. I stopped myself. Sorry, I said automatically. This time he looked at me. I don't care how you smell. He said it like he was talking about the weather. Then he turned another page. I sat there quietly after that. Because people don't stay. That's the part nobody understands. It's not just the comments or the jobs or the train seats, it's the leaving. People always find a reason to leave, but he stayed. The HR door opened and someone called my name. I stood, adjusted my folder, and walked past him, and for the first time in years I didn't apologize. His name was Mr. Jack. The HR woman mentioned it while handing me paperwork, a room key and my contract. When I asked about the room upstairs, she looked surprised. Mr. Jack arranged it. It's part of the package. I stared at the key card after she left. I wasn't sure what I was feeling. The room was small but clean, white walls, a single window, a bed with real sheets. A folded towel sat neatly on the chair. There was even a handwritten note from housekeeping that said, "Welcome." I sat on the edge of the bed that first night and tried to understand the feeling in my chest. Maybe it was safety, or maybe just relief. After years of walking into every room like it was a test, even a little peace feels strange. That night I slept 9 hours straight. I hadn't done that in over a year. The job was simple. Filing paperwork, logging complaints, coordinating deliveries, quiet work. I was good at it. Mr. Jack passed through the lobby most mornings. If our eyes met, he'd nod once and keep walking. That was all. 3 guests started yelling at me over an invoice that wasn't even wrong. I apologized automatically just to calm him down. Then Mr. Jack appeared beside me. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stepped closer and looked at the guest. "Is there a problem?" The tone alone made the guest back down. After the man left, Mr. Jack glanced at me. "You don't need to apologize for being correct." Then he walked away. Lunch started happening naturally after that. The first time he left a sandwich on my desk without stopping. I stared at it for a moment before eating because I hadn't even had breakfast. The second time he slowed down and said, "The canteen's busy. Eat something." By the third week, it had become routine. Coffee, soup, food from the kitchen. Sometimes he'd sit across from me for 10 or 15 minutes while we ate quietly. He never forced conversation. Sometimes we'd talk, sometimes we wouldn't. And slowly I started looking forward to those lunches more than I should have. That made me nervous. I wasn't used to good things lasting. Every job, every almost friendship, every moment someone seemed comfortable around me. Eventually something changed. People always reconsidered. But weeks passed and Mr. Jack didn't. Sometimes he'd correct me quietly while I worked. The way I stood, the way I spoke to difficult guests, the way I made myself smaller without realizing it. "Stop shrinking," he said once while I was on the phone with a supplier. I straightened immediately. A few minutes later, the supplier agreed to our terms. I smiled more after that. I noticed it one morning in the bathroom mirror. Not a big smile, just less tension in my face. My mother noticed too. She touched my cheek during Sunday dinner and looked at me carefully. "You seem different." "Good different?" She smiled softly. "Just happier." She didn't ask questions after that, but throughout dinner she laughed more easily than usual. Like she'd quietly stopped worrying about something. The strange moments started small. One afternoon during lunch, Mr. Jack asked what products I used. Soap suppressant patches, perfume, I listed all of them. Then he asked for the perfume brand specifically. I told him. He nodded slowly, then looked at his phone like it was nothing important. I thought nothing of it. He was like that with everything. Strict, detailed, precise. Line and thread counts, lobby temperature, the exact angle of hotel signs. So asking about my soap didn't feel strange. I forgot about it. Then I changed soap. The pharmacy was out of my usual brand. I didn't have time to go further, so I picked another one. Slightly floral, I noticed but didn't think much of it. That morning, Mr. Jack passed through the lobby and stopped at my desk just for a second. He looked at me, not angry, not confused, just unreadable. Then he walked on. That afternoon, my usual soap was on my desk. I didn't ask for it. "Pharmacy ran out," he said later, passing by. "Yes, how did you?" I noticed. I sat with that longer than I should have. Rosa from housekeeping passed by later. She looked at me for a second, then glanced toward where Mr. Jack had gone. "Funny," she said quietly. "You smell weaker today." Then she walked off before I could ask what she meant. The perfume ran out on a Tuesday. I had been stretching the bottle for weeks. That morning it was empty and I was already late, so I used the hotel bathroom soap instead. Plain, faintly floral, the same one guests used. By mid-morning, something felt different, not dramatic. Just like background noise had stopped. And suddenly I could notice everything else. Nobody moved away from me. Not the couple at reception, not the porter, not anyone. Around 11, Daniel, one of the morning's staff who never came near my side of the lobby, walked over. He stood at my desk, asked about a schedule he could have emailed. He stayed longer than he needed to. I didn't know what to do with that. Then just before lunch, a colleague stopped beside me. She tilted her head and studied me. "Wait," she said slowly. "Is that what you actually smell like?" "What? It's nice." Then she walked away like she hadn't just changed everything. I stood still, trying to understand what had changed. I didn't understand it then. I told myself maybe the hotel soap suited me better. Maybe the suppressants had been the problem all along. Maybe it was just luck. I told myself that because the other thought, that something had been done to me on purpose was too heavy to hold, so I pushed it away. For now, I found the folder by accident. I was helping in the back office while the admin assistant was sick, filing invoices, quiet work. I wasn't looking for anything. Then I saw it. A folder with my name on it, not my employee file. Something else. I almost didn't open it. I stood there for a long time telling myself it was probably nothing, but I opened it anyway. Inside were receipts, purchase orders, supplier records. Going back 3 years before I even came to the hotel, and I recognized everything. The suppressant patches, the unscented wash, the perfume, all of it. Bought in bulk. Shipped to an address I didn't know, and then the notes. Handwritten, timelines, measurements, adjustments. One word repeated again and again, compound. I read it once, then again, because my brain kept refusing to accept it. Mr. Jack was outside the room talking to someone, calm, controlled, like always. The compound's been discontinued, he said. It doesn't matter now. A pause. Another voice answered. And the boy? Silence. Then Mr. Jack, that's no longer your concern. Footsteps. The other person left. Then nothing. I don't remember sitting down, but I was on the floor when I came back to myself. The folder in my lap. The light above me buzzing. And everything I had believed about my life suddenly felt wrong. The classrooms, the jobs, the train seats, the way people always left. I thought it was me. I thought it was something in me, but it wasn't. Something had been done to me. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the building to go quiet. Long enough for the day to end without me noticing. Then I stood up, picked up the folder, and went to find him. His office light was still on. I knocked once, then walked in. He looked up immediately, then saw the folder in my hand and understood. Neither of us spoke at first. I placed the folder on his desk. Tell me, I said. He looked at it for a long time, then at me, and he spoke. He didn't rush, he didn't soften it. He just said it. He had loved my mother. He had asked her out. She said no. She chose my father, and something in him changed after that. Not suddenly, slowly over time, until it became something else, something patient, something cold. He found me, watched me grow, learned everything I used and changed it. Not enough to hurt me physically. Just enough to make me alone. Just enough to make people step away. He said it all without looking away from me. When he finished, the room was silent. You did this, I said. My whole life, you did this. Yes, no excuses, no denial, just the truth. I thought I would scream. I didn't. I just stood there, and what I felt wasn't anger at first. It was exhaustion. The kind that comes when you realize something you carried your whole life was never yours to carry. Why did you stop? I asked. He looked down. I didn't plan to, he said quietly. At first, I wanted your mother to suffer. I wanted her to watch you struggle and not understand why. A pause, but then I realized I wasn't hurting her anymore. He looked at me. I was hurting you. There's a difference? He didn't answer. After a long silence, he said, You're not her. I looked at him for a long time. This man who bought me lunch, who told me to stop shrinking, who acted like he saw me, and who also built the life I lived. Do you know, I said quietly, how many times I wished I was someone else? He looked up. Not someone better, not someone more successful, just someone that people could stand to be near, someone who didn't have to check every room before walking into it. I stopped. I used to scrub my skin raw in the shower. Did you know that? I thought if I could just get clean enough. I stopped again. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. I believed it, I said. My whole life I believed something was wrong with me, that I was born like this. I built everything around that, the way I move, the way I talk, the way I say sorry for just being in a room. I reached into my pocket and placed the key card on his desk. That was you. I walked out. He didn't follow me, didn't call my name. I didn't hear anything behind that door. No movement, no voice, nothing. Just silence. And somehow that was worse than if he had tried to stop me. I left the hotel with only my jacket and the bag I had brought to work that morning. The night air was cool. The street was almost empty. I walked to the bus stop and sat on the metal bench. I looked at my hands the same way I had on the train months ago, when someone moved away from me before I had even finished sitting down. I didn't cry. I don't know why. The feeling was there, heavy, close, but it stayed behind my eyes and didn't fall. I thought about calling my mother. I didn't. Not yet. So I just sat there until the bus came, and I went home. The box arrived 4 days later. No sender name. It was delivered to my mother's address. That already made my chest tighten. I opened it anyway. Inside were documents, everything. Invoices. Supplier records, chemical notes, timelines organized, clear, undeniable. Enough to show exactly what had been done and who had done it. At the bottom was money, more than I expected. Enough to change things, enough to make choices I had never had before. Under everything was a folded note. I recognized the handwriting immediately. You deserved a life untouched by me. I can't give you back the years, I know that, but everything in this box is yours to do with as you choose. That was all. I stood at the train station 2 weeks later, not going anywhere specific. I just ended up there, same platform, same crowd, same movement around me, but something felt different this time. I stood near the middle of the platform and waited. The man beside me didn't move away, neither did anyone else. A woman was on her phone beside me. A teenager stood with headphones in. An older man checked the board without looking at me. Nobody shifted, nobody created space where there wasn't any. Just peoples together, without me needing to measure myself against the room. The train arrived. Doors opened. I stepped in. And for the first time in my life, I didn't think about how I was being perceived. I just stayed where I was. Some things are never really about us. Sometimes we carry pain that was placed there by someone else, and we spend years believing it is who we are. But the truth can change everything. Even when it comes late, even when it hurts.